Hey, welcome to the St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge, broadcasting across the Northeast Kingdom and the North Country of New Hampshire. I'm your host, Joshua Smith, and we've got another packed episode for you. Tonight, Gary Moore is talking about the health and habits of some of the Vermont's biggest game animals with his guest, Nick Fortin, who is the Deer and Moose Project Leader for the Vermont Fish and Wildlife Department. So whether you're a hunter, a conservationist, or just curious about what's happening in the woods around you, this episode's for you. Plus, later on, we've got the latest Snowmobile Trail Reports from both sides of the river, and of course, our Outdoor Edge forecast is brought to you by the Fairbanks Museum. Our friends over at the Fairbanks Museum is giving us a nice lengthy report. So there's a lot to dig into. So we're just gonna jump right into it, folks. Here we go.
Good evening. Welcome to Thoughts on the Outdoors. My guest tonight is Nick Fortin. He is Vermont Fish and Wildlife Biologist, best known perhaps as the Deer Project Leader. And one of the reasons that he's here tonight is to talk about deer. But before we do that, Nick, would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. So I grew up in the Northeast Kingdom from Derby originally. Avid hunting and fishing family, so I was outdoors all the time. That's kind of why I wanted to do this, right? You always want to do what you love, has its pluses and minuses. But ended up going away to college, getting some degrees. I went to Paul Smith's originally, and then University of Maine, and then got my master's degree from the University of New Hampshire, so everywhere except Vermont. And then, worked a few places, and then this job opened up to come back and be the deer biologist here, and, I honestly never thought I'd get it, but applied, got lucky, and so, I've been here about 10 years now.
Great. So you didn't have to start from scratch. You know the state, you knew the state, you're a hunter yourself, so,
Yeah.
You also knew all the history of the deer hunting and the controversy over antlerless hunting and et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely, and that has been very helpful in this job for sure. I'm not sure someone from out of state, well, they could do it, but they'd struggle to learn some
Biologically,
things.
scientifically, they might be able to do it, but not socially.
Yeah, it'd be right. It takes a lot to learn that,
right?
To understand it.
Yeah. Well, let's start off by the fall hunting seasons. Talk a little bit about what happened.
Yeah, so last fall, I have been describing our hunting seasons as remarkably average. So they were, the harvest was very close to our previous 3-year average, is up a little bit from 2024, but it always varies year to year. So
there's so many things that impact it, from weather to food
exactly.
source.
But we were so close to our 3-year averages for pretty much everything. Buck kill, antlerless kill, every season individually, archery, rifle, youth weekend, all very close to 3-year averages. The only season that was up a little bit was the December muzzleloader, and we had great snow conditions across the whole state. Right. So I think that was probably why we saw that uptick there. But otherwise, another pretty solid year.
Mm-hmm. Now, you're talking statewide.
Yes.
I assume there were some regions that did better or worse than others?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we always simplify our message and talk about the whole statewide, but depending where you are in Vermont, things are very different, right? Some areas are doing great. I'm sure we had a handful of towns that had all-time record deer harvests, and I'm sure we had a handful of towns that probably saw their worst harvest in decades.
Yeah.
So, it very much depends where you're going. Generally, this year, the Northeast Kingdom did really well, and probably snow was part of that. And then there's some parts of central and especially southern Vermont, the southern Green Mountains, where the habitat's not good and deer numbers aren't great, and so those areas have been struggling for a while now.
Right. Talking about muzzleloader seasons, many of our listeners know that in Vermont we have muzzleloader season in December after all the other seasons, with the exception of the archery season continues. Where across the river in New Hampshire, they have their muzzleloader season early. And I know there are lots of discussion on both sides what works best, but why did we do ours in December?
Honestly, that's a good question. I don't know. So we've had our December muzzleloader season since the late 80s, I think. And I'm not sure. I think at the time that was the interest, was people probably wanted to hunt on snow maybe in December. And so that's when it started, and that's when it's always been.
Yeah. I just always thought it had something to do with determining how many deer could be taken, because they issue the antlers permits. The number you put is depending on what you think the condition of the herd is, etc. That was the way to take extra deer. I don't know.
Again, I don't know what the history, what the thought process was at the time. I know we do hear from a lot of folks, especially folks who hunt both Vermont and New Hampshire.
Right.
They would love to be able to hunt earlier, right, like New Hampshire does.
Right.
And, we hear that a lot. I think at this point we've gotten to where our focus is on our rifle season. That's what everyone really wants to protect. And so, the
When
idea
someone says deer season, they're talking rifle season.
Exactly. And so like the idea of like now people can go out and shoot their buck earlier, well, that's not fair to the folks who don't muzzleload, right?
Right.
And so, take that for what it's worth. It depends on your own personal interest, but that's kind of why at this point I doubt we'll change it.
Well, I'm pretty happy with it personally, because I live on the Connecticut River, and so I go to New Hampshire and hunt during the muzzleloader season when it's nice and warm.
Yeah.
Rather than spend much time hunting archery in Vermont. I do hunt archery some, but and then I can hunt the muzzleloader season in December here in Vermont. So, for those of us who live here in the valley, it's a good deal.
Right. You get the best of both worlds.
Right. Maybe we should talk a little bit about deer hunting in general. Sure. At one time we talked about the deer herd back in the 70s being the golden goose or whatever. So many people came from away. License sales were up.
Yeah.
Vermont, no different than most of the states. The licenses have dropped off over the years. Fewer people hunt and so forth. But also, just what I see doesn't mean it's statistically correct. A lot of people that might have come here in the 20, 30 years ago to hunt are going to Pennsylvania and places like that where there are a lot of deer, the Carolinas and so forth. But, it's definitely got to be impacting our deer herd and your management of it. You need hunters to take deer.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said it right. We need hunters to take deer. And I think we have to be a little cautious because we have a lot less hunters than we used to have in Vermont, but we still have a lot of hunters for a small state.
Correct.
And there are places in Vermont where we have plenty of hunters, and a lot of people would tell you there's too many hunters because they're competing with them.
Yep.
But there are parts of the state, and it seems to be worse in southern Vermont. Northern Vermont, seem to be holding on to our hunters better, but southern Vermont, we are losing hunters, and it is hard. It's hard to, if you don't have enough hunters, it's hard to take enough deer every year, right?
That's right.
So we are struggling with that, and it's an important consideration for us in almost everything we do is how can we keep more people hunting and get more people hunting.
Right. And, there have been a lot of things instituted to try to do that. Youth seasons.
Yeah,
where
exactly.
they get, and recently a novice season.
Yep.
Times are different.
They're very
When I was
different.
growing up, there were farms everywhere. People grew up understanding where food came from.
Yep.
There was always a rifle in the barn. People hunted. My high school classmates, virtually every male in the class from both New Hampshire and Vermont were hunters. That's, in November we talked about deer hunting.
Right. Right.
That's not true today.
No, it has changed, but I think it is important to keep in mind that at least, I don't know what New Hampshire's numbers look like, but Vermont, what we call our participation rate, like the percentage of people who hunt, is still high. It's still one of the highest in the country.
Right.
So we're still doing okay.
Right.
But yeah, the trend is not going in the right direction, and it is something we have to think about.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And we're not drawing the number of non-residents.
No. I mean, Vermont is not a deer hunting destination, right? People come here to turkey hunt and do other things, but not deer hunting, because like you said, other states have more deer, and if you're going to travel to deer hunt,
Right.
Vermont's probably not the place you're going to choose.
Right. What is the condition of the deer herd in Vermont? Does it vary from one end to the other?
Oh, very much. So broadly, deer doing okay. There are parts of the state where, so I judge things on how healthy deer are, not how many deer there are. Right. There are parts of the state where they're pretty healthy. Northeast Kingdom tends to be where they're the healthiest. The Champlain Valley tends to be where there are the most deer.
Right.
But there are too many deer there.
Far too many.
And then central and southern Vermont, we kind of get into this situation where we don't have a ton of deer in most places, but we also have really poor quality habitat, right? A bunch of mature forest.
Right.
And so even though we don't have too many deer, we don't have a lot of deer, we sometimes still have too many deer for our forest.
Right.
And that's where, we put out this messaging saying we have too many deer, and hunters here, we have a lot of deer, which is not what we're saying. We're just saying our habitat's not great, and the relatively small number of deer we have is still too many. And that's the struggle we're dealing with, is just we don't have great quality habitat in a lot of the state.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll take a break.
It's a St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge on YKR Country.
Winter in Vermont is a great time to get outside and explore. It offers experiences for a wide range of abilities and interests. The Vermont Fish and Wildlife Department provides opportunities to take advantage of what the season offers. Visit vtfishandwildlife.com to plan your next winter adventure. You can sign up for a free ice fishing clinic, watch how-to videos, or find a wildlife management area near you for a quiet snowshoe stroll. Vermont Fish and Wildlife is here to help you get outside and experience the outdoors this winter.
So where's the big deal?
Holy shamoly, it's Matt LeKire from the Autosaver Group, St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Now is the time to get into a brand new Jeep during the Start Something New sales event. Right now at St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, drive a brand new 2026 Jeep Compass Limited, lease it for just $359 per month for 39 months with zero money down. That's right, zero down on a Compass Limited packed with premium features, advanced safety, technology, and legendary Jeep capability built to handle Vermont roads with confidence. You'll find St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram just over the railroad tracks in St. Johnsbury, Vermont. Easy to find and worth the trip. Stop in today or visit us online and take advantage of this exceptional lease on a 2026 Jeep Compass Limited for just $359 per month with zero down.
Lease for stock number SJJ 26002. 10,000 miles per year, 32,500 total miles. 30 cents per mile over. Tax, title, registration extra. Must have courage to land this brand lease. First payment due at signing.
St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, where Vermont comes to drive.
It's the St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge on YKR Country.
You've picked the paint colors, maybe even sketched a layout on the back of an envelope, or made the playlist for your grand opening. But without a design, it's just a dream. Riverside Design Works in Bradford makes those dreams real for families and small businesses across the Upper Valley. Affordable, functional, and community-focused, we build for your needs and within your budget. But heads up, the 2026 construction season is booking fast. If you want shovels in the ground next year, you need plans today. Keep it simple. Riverside Design Works. Smart choices, reliable results.
Your website isn't working for you. Hi, this is Jay Davis, co-founder of Northeast Kingdom Online. I'm sure you've seen us online already. We've created hundreds of websites for companies just like yours. If you're ready to stand out on the internet, it's time to join forces with Northeast Kingdom Online, Northern New England's premier website design company. From security to mobile responsiveness, we handle it all. Let's make your website as unique as your business. Visit us at northeastkingdomonline.com and let's get started. Achieve more with northeastkingdomonline.com.
Welcome back. My guest today is Nick Fortin, Vermont Fish and Wildlife Warden and Deer Project Leader. Nick, the department has proposed several changes for the deer seasons. How about talking about some of those?
Yeah, sure. where you want to start? You want to list them? There are a lot of changes this year. When I've been talking to people, I say most of these are not going to affect most hunters. They're relatively minor kind of things, and then there's a few bigger ones that.
Well, for instance, the 16-day extension of the archery season. It's specific to 8 areas?
Yeah, 8 specific areas. So, a lot of states would call this like an urban or suburban archery hunt. We picked 8 areas that generally around not that we have a lot of suburban areas in Vermont, but our larger cities and towns where it's so developed enough that
you can't rifle hunt.
You can't rifle hunt. Either it's not legal or it's just not safe. Most hunters don't want to hunt there with a gun. So we're starting our archery season in mid-September only in these 8 areas. So they'll be the only places open to archery hunting. The hope is that, those folks are really itching to go at the beginning of the season. We can encourage them to try to get permission in these areas.
Those areas are areas where there's a deer problem as far as people can't have shrubbery on their lawns. It's hard for gardens. There's just too many deer in that specific area. We're getting a lot of conflicts with deer because, they're eating people's landscaping or they're hitting them with cars and whatever. So, and it's hard to get hunters, again, given a choice to hunt somewhere else or hunt in someone's backyard, most hunters are going to choose to hunt in a more rural area. So sit out in your backyard.
Yeah, we're hoping we can encourage a few folks.
I'm probably not going to put my tree stand in the maple that your kids have got the swing hung on, right?
But
probably I could get deer that way.
But that's sort of what this hunting is. I mean, I will say in most of these areas, there are pockets of actual woods you could probably find to hunt in. But you are going to hear kids playing and dogs barking and traffic going by. I mean, these are developed areas.
Well, within the listening area of this station, I mean, St. Johnsbury and part of Waterford, City of Newport, City of Montpelier, they're 3 of the 5, where it's either not safe to rifle hunt or as you said, hunters just don't want to do it.
Right. I mean, I would have no interest in hunting there.
No,
but,
I agree.
If it's an opportunity to fill a doe tag earlier in the season and you're ready to go, hey, go knock on some doors.
So the hope is that anyways, that people who are anxious to get out with their bow will go to one of these 8 areas and take a few extra deer and maybe save some shrubbery and so forth.
That's the hope.
Okay. Some of the other changes.
So some of the other ones are kind of, we had a couple that are undoing things we did 5 years ago. So, we do, if we recognize we made a mistake, we'll undo it in the future. So we're moving our youth weekend back to the weekend before the regular rifle season, which is when it always was. In 2020, we moved it 2 weeks earlier, thinking the warmer weather would increase participation and also trying to get it ahead of our October muzzleloader season. So they were the first hunters with a gun. But turns out we actually got less participation.
It turns out that many of those that would have been hunting or playing football or soccer.
Exactly.
That's the height of their sports season, the end of the seasons,
Exactly. And we I guess hadn't really thought of that or I don't know, didn't consider it enough. But that's exactly what we saw is all the fall activities are still going on in October. And that early November timing turned out to have been perfect, right?
You
were between fall and winter.
A young man hunting on our property, and he had to leave at noon for a football game in the afternoon, so he lost half of that Saturday.
And that's exactly what we're seeing is people were still hunting, but they got half a day to hunt instead of the full weekend. So hopefully this will get us more participation again, and that's the whole purpose of the season, right? Is to get kids into it. So that's what we want.
You changed because you realized that there was a problem you didn't even think about.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, so that was one change. And then another one we changed is we're reinstating our antler restriction in WMU-D1. So it's most of Orleans County. And that was, again, we tried. We thought maybe this area, maybe we can not have an antler restriction and enough bucks will still survive to older age classes. So we do have goals in our 10-year plan of maintaining a certain percentage of older bucks in the harvest, and turns out in D1 that didn't work. It's farmland. There's a lot of hunters.
It's agricultural land,
and those deer are vulnerable, and so they were getting shot. They were killing too many yearling bucks, and no issue with killing the yearlings. It just meant that enough weren't surviving to the older age classes.
Explain for any of the listeners who may not be hunters the antler restriction.
Yeah, so in Vermont, well, now in about half of Vermont, we have an antler restriction, meaning that for a buck to be legal, for a hunter to legally take a buck, it has to have 2 antler points on one antler. So a lot of young bucks only have spikes on each side, and those bucks are off limits to hunters. So some areas we let hunters shoot those where there's not a lot of deer and not a lot of hunters, but where we have particularly a lot of hunting pressure, those spike bucks are off limits, hoping to let some of them get older.
And from what I hear, it actually has worked as far as people are seeing more deer with at least small racks as opposed to spike horns.
Yeah, we're at least getting a lot of bucks to 2.5-year-olds, which are usually little 6-pointers or whatever, and then you get them that old, and some of them start smartening up, and a few of them live even longer. But obviously, it's working because in D1 we went backwards, right, by letting people shoot spike horns, and so we're going to go back. Spike horns are going to be off limits, and hopefully we'll see the number of mature bucks pick up in that area as well.
Wildlife management is maybe scientific, but there's a lot. It's not like a lot of sciences where there's hard numbers.
Right. It is a lot of guesswork and a lot of adjusting.
Trial and error.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
And unlike if you're in the Department of Agriculture, you can count the number of cows or whatever.
Right. I think
can't count the number of deer.
No. I think our estimates are good, but they are estimates, right? They're guesses. So yeah.
But I mean, it's the up or down. It's how it changes.
Yep.
I mean, road kills. That's a number you look at a lot, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
When the deer herd's up, you're going to get more killed by vehicles and so forth. And
those are all fascinating
count.
things, and weird things like we don't think about, like roadkill is a very valuable piece of data.
Right.
But modern safety features in vehicles are reducing the number of roadkills.
Correct.
So we're seeing a decline in roadkill even if deer numbers aren't declining.
Right.
And so it gets complicated with things you don't think about, and that's why we're always adjusting and always.
And you can't compare this year to last year and show much. You got to have multiple years to see the trends.
Yep. You have long-term
because there's so many different things that impact it.
Exactly.
I mean, we talked earlier about weather. That's why you think the muzzleloader season was better this year.
Right.
But also food sources.
Yeah, food's a huge one. A huge one. I mean, if there's a lot of acorns and beech nuts out there, then oddly the deer kill goes down.
Right.
Because deer aren't moving. It's harder for hunters to see them. So, those are all big factors that we can't always predict. Right, we don't know.
Right.
So.
Well, we had your colleague on, Jackie Como, to talk about bear. Same thing there.
Yeah.
In this area with the massive acreage of corn, bear had a lot of food, but also good mast years where there's acorns or beech nuts. They don't have to come out. Anyways, all those things impact it.
Yep.
And it's true for deer. It's true for all your game species.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Process.
Any other changes?
So let me think. A couple of the other, what I consider kind of minor ones. We extended our archery season through rifle season. So, sort of an odd quirk of our regulations. Our archery season runs October 1st to December 15th, but it was closed during the regular firearm season. And the reason it was closed was a law enforcement issue about you can't shoot does during the rifle season, but you could shoot them if archery season was open with a bow. So we didn't want that sort of conflicting thing going on. So it was closed. But now that we're going to allow does to be taken during rifle season, if you have a permit, that was less of a concern. So just simplifying our regulations, archery runs straight through, which it does in New Hampshire and has for a long time, same sort of deal.
Right.
Just a simplification. A few hardcore archery hunters, I'm sure, will go out bow hunting during rifle season, but most people are going to choose to rifle hunt, right? If they haven't filled their tag already. So I don't think it's going to change our harvest much, but it's simplified, cleaner, easier, a little more opportunity, all good.
Now, what about antlerless permits?
So yeah, that's the big one that has been the most contentious one is we will this year be allowing hunters to fill their antlerless permit during our rifle season,
Right.
which has not been legal since the 80s,
Right.
your time as commissioner, basically. It's controversial. It's controversial to the folks mainly who lived through that period in the early 80s. So for context, the department was very aggressive at that time, issued a lot of antlerless permits, attempting to reduce the deer population.
Right.
I mean, it was from what I've read, clearly stated objective to reduce deer numbers, and it worked very well.
Right.
And of course, that irritated a lot of hunters, ultimately led to that being prohibited. Taking does during our regular firearm season was prohibited by statute, and I think that expired 2015 or so, somewhere it kind of was let
Very
go.
Recent. Yeah, about 10 dozen years ago. Yeah. 10 or
But
dozen.
yeah, it was illegal for 30 years, right? Not just we didn't do it, it was actually illegal. So there's a stigma against it in Vermont, which is, I'm not going to say unfounded, but a little funny when you talk to folks from other states, because literally every other state lets their hunters shoot antlerless deer with a rifle. But yeah, so this year we will be allowing folks to fill their antlerless permit. So same antlerless permits we've given out during our muzzleloader season for 30 years. Just you can also take, if you prefer to fill it during rifle season, you can do that. Key part being you need to have an antlerless permit.
Right.
This is not an open free-for-all. Anyone can shoot a doe during rifle season. You have to have a permit, and those permits are probably going to be a little hard to come by in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll be conservative to start, lower permit numbers, because we don't know how high the success rates are going to be.
Right.
We know for muzzleloader, when we issue those permits in muzzleloader season, we only get about a 14% fill rate. Right. So have to issue a lot of permits to kill a pretty small number of deer.
Exactly.
But if we're letting people take does with rifles, presumably they're going to be more successful.
Right. If they've got a permit and they're already out there for looking for a buck, and they see a decent doe, they're going
to take it, or they might take it. And so I think we'll have a higher success rate. We just don't know how high. So we're going to err on the kind of cautious side this year and cut back on permits. So it's going to be hard to get a permit in most areas.
But next year, you'll have something to base your numbers on.
Right. Eventually, we'll creep back up to probably never need the number of permits we issue. We issued this past year. I think we issued close to 22,000.
Right, and you couldn't even
permits.
give them all away, right?
No, and that's the
here
problem.
In J2, I know you kept trying to give out more permits.
J2, yeah, like we do eventually sell them all in J2, but it takes well into the season for people to actually. I assume there are folks who are killing a deer and then going back and getting another permit, and that's why they sell
That's what
out.
I hear, anyways.
And so you're still going to be able to do that, but I don't think they're going to be leftover permits anymore. Right? We're going to have fewer permits and so many more hunters available to take them.
Take pause for another break here.
It's a St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge on YKR Country.
Winter in Vermont is a great time to get outside and explore. It offers experiences for a wide range of abilities and interests. The Vermont Fish and Wildlife Department provides opportunities to take advantage of what the season offers. Visit vtfishandwildlife.com to plan your next winter adventure. You can sign up for a free ice fishing clinic, watch how-to videos, or find a wildlife management area near you for a quiet snowshoe stroll. Vermont Fish and Wildlife is here to help you get outside and experience the outdoors this winter.
At R&L Archery, we know it's not just about the thrill of the hunt or the size of the fish. It's about the moments that matter most, the traditions passed down from one generation to the next, and the stories told by the fire long after the sun is set. It's about the journey, the memories, and the time spent together with friends and family, because these are the moments that truly last a lifetime. R&L Archery, where every adventure begins. Come create your story.
It's the St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge on YKR Country.
Steve here at Bachelor Carpentry. Check us out at vtcarpenter.com. Winter winds are chilly and white, but your kitchen's future should be bright. At Bachelor Carpentry, we get it right. Transforming spaces into sights, cabinets gleam, counters invite. Cooking style, cooking delight. Don't hesitate, let's design tonight. And once again, check us out at vtcarpenter.com.
Welcome back to Thoughts on the Outdoors. My guest today is Nick Fortin from Vermont Fish and Wildlife. He's a biologist and the head of the deer project. We were talking about changes to the regulations regarding deer hunting for this coming year, and quite a few changes. But what else happened?
I think the big one we haven't talked about yet is allowing hunters to take a second buck. So this has been a little contentious, but I think more so a lot of hunters interested in the opportunity. So currently in Vermont, or I should say previously now, hunters are only allowed one buck per year across all seasons.
Right.
Archery, rifle, muzzleloader, you can only get one total. Now we're going to let hunters take a second buck, but only if they have to buy a second buck tag. They have to take an antlerless deer before they can take the second buck. And their first buck has to have 3 points on one antler.
Okay.
So the first buck has to be basically not a yearling buck,
Right.
a bigger buck.
Right.
And they have to take an antlerless deer. If they do that, then go ahead. We'll let you take a second buck. But you got to kind of work with us a little bit.
And the second buck can be?
Whatever's legal
Okay.
in your area.
In your wildlife management.
In your unit, yep.
Yep.
And I do want to emphasize, the first buck can be whatever's legal too. You just wouldn't qualify for a second buck in that case.
Yeah.
But if you want the second buck, you got to hold out for at least 3 on a side first buck. Which the reason we did that is it maintains that selectivity that we got from a 1 buck limit. Right? Hunters are like, well, if it's my only one, I don't know if I want to be done with a yearling.
Right.
I'm going to wait for something bigger.
Right.
So now they're still waiting for something bigger. So we keep that. And then taking an antlerless deer, we need to incentivize that in some areas. We need hunters to take more antlerless deer. This is kind of sort of a carrot we'll dangle out there.
Right.
If you do this for us, you can have the second buck.
Well,
and I also want to kind of get across the point, like if you think there are enough deer out there to take 2 bucks out of an area, there are absolutely enough to take 1 doe.
Right.
So
absolutely.
We kind of got to get that mentality in hunters' heads that if you're good with taking 2 bucks, then you should absolutely be fine with taking a doe as well.
Right.
So kind of shifting that mentality. But yeah, it's a new opportunity, and so what we found going to 1 buck in 2020 when we started doing that is a lot of our hunters, they're not going to go in the woods if they don't have a buck tag.
Right.
Right. The people who used to archery hunt before, they don't want to give up their rifle season, so they don't want to shoot a buck during the archery season. And if they're not going to shoot a buck, they're kind of like, I don't really want to go out there, even if they're the type of hunter who's willing to take an antlerless deer.
Right.
So the buck tag keeps them out in the woods hunting, whether they fill it or not. But it at least
that's
gets
the
people in
reason
the
to
woods.
get out there.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're doing there, and I think that one has potential to kind of change how hunters hunt and maybe adjust our harvest more than it might seem on the surface.
Good.
Yeah. So
Good. We'll see how it works.
It's a new opportunity for folks, right? And they love to, like I said, get in the woods. That's the important part. Is get them out there.
Before we leave deer, a little bit about deer health. Healthy does should normally have twins.
Yeah, that's kind of our norm in Vermont. Is a healthy adult doe typically has twins most years.
Yeah.
Yep.
If there's not sufficient food and so forth, they may not.
Right. So if they're not in as good a shape as they should be, they'll probably produce 1. Rarely 0. I mean, if a deer doesn't conceive at all, it's usually something extreme, like an injury or an illness. Not just they're not quite as healthy as they should be. But yeah, they'll often produce just 1. Well, the bigger side of it, and the part that's kind of harder to measure. So we do measure this every year. Our wardens collect roadkill deer all winter, and they see how many fetuses those deer are carrying. So we get a good indication of how healthy our deer are that way. But the part that is maybe more impactful and it's harder to measure is if they're not as healthy as they should be, a lot of those fawns are going to die in the spring after they're born.
Correct.
Right. She might have been really healthy in the fall, and so she conceived twins.
But all their fat reserves are gone.
But come spring, if she's in poor health, she's going to abandon those
Right.
fawns, and that's harder to measure, right?
Because with the coyotes, those fawn that is abandoned isn't going to be there very long.
Exactly, and that's another important thing. And a lot of people are like, oh, the coyotes eat all the fawns, or bears eat all the fawns. They do eat a lot of fawns, both of them.
Mm-hmm.
But there's been a lot of research on this, and essentially those fawns are going to die anyway. And yeah, no fawn actually goes out and starves to death, because when they're hungry, they start calling for mom. And if mom doesn't come, a coyote's gonna.
That's right.
So, so they might get eaten by a coyote, but they were gonna starve to death.
They were going to die anyways.
Yeah. So it's hard, but that's one of the first things we see is we don't recruit as many fawns when deer aren't as healthy as they should be. And of course, half of fawns are male. So if you want more bucks, we got to recruit as many fawns as possible, and that takes healthy deer.
You just said half. Is that sort of pretty standard with the white-tailed deer that about half the fawns will be male, half female?
Yeah, almost universally. I think anytime I did this as my master's degree, looked at deer productivity in New Hampshire, and you get like 51 to 49% or something,
yeah,
but it's basically 50-50.
Yeah.
All the time. So yeah. You want more bucks, you got to get more fawns to survive.
And what determines the health of the deer herd is habitat.
Absolutely, that is pretty much the only thing that matters. And unfortunately for us in Vermont, we as a department have very little ability to manage habitat.
You don't. The state doesn't own a lot of land.
No, we own a fair amount of land, but I think it's roughly 80% of our deer habitat is on private land.
Right.
And even if we could perfectly manage all of the public land, it doesn't move the needle. There's just so much habitat on private land that whatever those private landowners do is what drives the quality of our deer habitat.
Right.
And we, much as we try, we just can't influence that.
Right.
So we have to work with what we have, and unfortunately what we have is not great habitat in a lot of areas. So
well, when I was growing up in the 50s and very early 60s, Vermont was just covered with small family farms, about 25, 30 head of cattle.
Yep.
They all had so-called back pastures. All those back pastures then suddenly grew up. People don't pasture their cattle back anymore. They bring the feed to the cattle.
Right.
Those went through the early growth stage and so forth, but now they're mature trees without a lot of food there.
That is exactly
for
it.
wildlife.
Yeah, that's exactly
other than
it.
bear. Maybe.
That's why deer did so well in the 60s and 70s. There was all this young old pasture, regrowing into forest everywhere in the state. So great deer habitat.
Absolutely.
And now those are all 60 to 80-year-old hardwood stands.
Right.
And that's not good deer habitat.
Right.
And so that's what we're dealing with. It's just it's natural succession, sort of. The unnatural part of it is it's all the same everywhere.
Right.
Normally there'd be a lot of variety, and we just don't have that in Vermont.
Yeah. And the more we get groups opposed to logging, I don't want to get too much into politics here, but a mature forest doesn't provide a lot of habitat for wildlife other than perhaps bear and so forth. But, logging provided those open spaces that a lot of species needed.
Yeah. No, we absolutely need more young forest habitat in Vermont, and logging is the way to get there.
Right.
So we need more of that. And
there
are that's a whole complex thing, and how you make that happen.
We're not going to debate that today.
We do need more of that for sure.
Yeah. One quick thing about the deer. If I understand correctly, early March is when you have all the numbers for the seasons by Wildlife Management and so forth. Those will be on the Fish and Wildlife website?
Yeah, so we should have final numbers usually by the end of February nowadays, and then we'll have public hearings in March like we do every year, and get that information
Provide
out to
the
the public.
information out and get input.
Hear from people what they think's going on, and
Yeah. Well, we got a little time left, but we've been talking a lot about deer, but I note you're also the project leader for moose.
Yeah.
Would you talk about the recent moose season?
Sure. So Our moose season last year, so we have a very limited moose hunt in Vermont. We only allow hunting in what we call Wildlife Management Unit E.
Basically Essex County.
Essex
northeast
County.
Corner.
Yep, northeast corner of the state. It's the only place we allow hunting. We have much, much higher moose density there, than anywhere else in the state. So that area last year, we issued 180 permits, and hunters took 68 moose, which is pretty low success rate, compared to past historical norms. We're actually a little bit better than we did in 2024, but we are trying to reduce moose numbers there to deal with the tick issue, and so I think we're seeing the impact of that. We've started to reduce numbers, and we're putting a lot of permits there.
Right.
So it's relatively high hunting pressure, and that's caused lower success rates.
But the success, the number of moose taken there were more than in New Hampshire in there.
Oh yeah. New Hampshire is a much more conservative approach on permit numbers.
But both of you have the same problem, ticks.
We absolutely have the same problem. Yep.
Well, I guess all of the northern tier states that have moose have a tick problem.
Yes, it is particularly acute in northern New England for whatever reason. I think we are that good intersection of commercial timberland in northern New England that makes perfect moose habitat,
right,
combined with a warming, climate that's bouncing up against those high moose numbers in those areas, and so we get a lot of ticks.
This is not a pretty sight or a topic for the dinner table, but would you explain to our listeners how the ticks impact the moose?
Sure. So I think a very important part is the tick that impacts moose is called a winter tick. It is not the same tick that you get on yourself or a dog. It's not a deer tick. It's not a dog tick. It's called a winter tick. It's a different species of tick. They've actually been here as long as moose have. They're not new. What is new is shorter winters and high moose numbers. But winter ticks, the reason they're called winter ticks is because they'll get on an animal in the fall and they spend the entire winter on that animal. They go through all three life stages and then they drop off in the spring. So any animal that grooms itself, like a deer or pretty much anything other than a moose, will knock off most of those ticks in the 5 months that they're on there in the winter, and they won't complete their life cycle. But moose really don't groom. They didn't evolve with parasites like ticks. So moose, in the course of the fall, can pick up tens of thousands of winter ticks. And come springtime, when all of those ticks take that final blood meal and swell up to the size of a small grape before they drop off, it kills moose, especially smaller moose, because they have less blood to lose. And they pretty much all carry the same number of ticks, regardless of size. Calves are particularly vulnerable, but, a calf moose with 30 or 40,000 ticks can at one point almost have more of its blood on the outside than on the inside.
In the ticks.
It's just not. And it's, of course, the worst time of year, too. They're in poor condition because it's the end of winter already.
And the food source is not there.
They don't have high-protein food to replace that blood. The small moose tend to succumb. Adults don't usually die, but like a cow moose, even though she'll survive, she's heavily impacted.
Right.
And so, she's going to give birth about a month later. That calf's going to struggle, and then she may not reproduce the next year. It affects their birth rate.
And I've seen it where they've just scrubbed off all sorts of hair and so forth.
They will try, they'll try to dislodge those ticks, and the best thing they have is to rub their hair off.
As we end up with the ticks here, you have a way of counting the ticks. How many places on a moose do you put the circle?
Yeah,
so you can get always in the same place, so you can get trends.
Yeah, so on every moose that hunters take and comes into the check station, we count ticks. We pick 4 spots on the moose, always the same. It's the neck, the shoulder, the ribs, and the rump. And we part the hair there, and we count some ticks. And that gives us a good kind of trend information. It's not obviously, it's a very small sample on that moose, so it's not a perfect indicator, but you count enough moose.
But you can tell from it if the ticks are increasing or not. Because you're measuring the same square inches in the same 4 places.
Right, every year on every moose. Yep. And so we get a good trend information from year to year.
Yeah.
So that's helpful long term, but ticks, like anything else, they also vary for reasons beyond our control, and
or even knowing why.
Yep, exactly. So we're trying to address it, but it's going to be a
sad.
long term battle.
I mean, wasn't that long ago in the early '80s, if you saw a moose, everybody talked about it.
Yeah.
I remember, Fish and Game managed to get a couple of roadkill moose and thought that was wonderful. And then, we get into the late 90s and there are moose everywhere, running around Burlington and God knows where else. I mean, they were everywhere.
Yeah.
And people drove out at night to see moose the way in the 60s they used to drive out to see herds of deer. And now, if you see a moose, we're back talking about it again.
Yeah, we have gone through the full cycle
That's
in
right.
a relatively short period of time, yeah.
Well, Nick, I appreciate you coming and talking with us today.
My pleasure.
A lot of good information for our readers, our listeners out there, and our readers in my weekly columns. Anyways, I appreciate it. Good luck with your deer herd, and we'll see you again, have you on again.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And that was Gary Moore talking to Nick Fortin. And now we're just going to jump right into the updates on both Vermont and New Hampshire with the Snowmobile Report. And first we're going to do with Dan Ingerson from the Connecticut Valley Snowmobile Club. And right after that, we're going to hear from Gary Lamberton, who is the trail master for the Buckaroos of 302. So here is the conversation I had earlier with Dan Ingerson. We got back on the air with us Dan Ingerson, who is the vice president of the Connecticut Valley Snowmobile Club. Dan, this is the time of year we like to check in with you to see how the trails are looking over there in the Granite State.
Well, trails are looking better.
Yeah.
They would be better if we could get some more snow, which hopefully this weekend with the big storm that's down south coming up the coast will drop some snow up here.
Right. And remind people, how many miles of trails does the Connecticut Valley Snowmobile Club cover?
We have 65 miles.
Wow.
It extends from Bath, New Hampshire, all the way down to Glencliff, and then it extends over towards Landaff. I'm not sure how many miles that way.
And last time we were talking to you, you were fixing a groomer. Is that all fixed now?
That is not all fixed. Well, we got it out of the woods.
Okay.
We're still waiting on parts. The lovely mail system.
Yeah. See. And so are all your trails, are they all green? Are they all ready to go? Or everything's open now?
So our trails are still open. They are not groomed because we need 8 inches of snow to get the big machine back out and start grooming. But if you go behind Ocean State job lots on Quarter 5 and head towards Lisbon and Littleton, it gets better that direction. Heading north, south, it's bare.
And like you said, so basically Ocean State job lots on south, I mean from Woodsville towards Haverhill area, how are those trails?
Those trails, people are riding them, but it's thin.
Right. And so remind people, too, you kind of mentioned 8 inches, though, for proper grooming. For you, then, as someone who's a seasoned snowmobiler, how many inches do you need before you break out your machine?
Well, we need, for 8 inches is for the clubs to get paid from the state of New Hampshire. So we have to make sure we can go by their rules. So if my personal, I wait till we get 8 inches, the first hit, and then with all the rain, we have a nice base with all the ice and everything. So once we do get snow, we'll be great.
Real quick, I want to touch on the fact that the Connecticut Valley Snowmobile Club has a couple events coming up as well.
We do. February 15th, it's a Sunday, from 9 to 2 is our annual Poker Run Radar Run. We will have a New Hampshire permit that will allow non-residents and non-registered machines to come out and enjoy our loop trail and enjoy the radar run. And we'll also have food by donation.
Okay. And you also have something else as well, right?
We do. We have the Clunkers Sled Classic, which is February 21st. That is, gates open at 7 a.m. Green flag drops at 10:30. We have plenty of area to work on.
Yeah, I think I see. You came by the station the other day and you showed us some maps. So there's different routes that people can take, right?
So we got 9 different classes with 120s, 200s. Our main feature, double clunker, slow leaf, fast leaf, a woman's race, and a junior class.
Now, remind people, if people want to kind of learn more about the Connecticut Valley Snowmobile Club, where's the best place they could go to?
They can go to Facebook under Connecticut Valley Snowmobile Club, and you can also go under Clunker Sled Classic. That's on Facebook. We also have a web page at ctvalley-snowmobileclub.com.
Okay, excellent. And then we'll check in with you again in another couple of weeks on the state of the snowmobile trails in our neck of the woods over there in New Hampshire. So thank you so much. And we're talking to Dan Ingerson, who is the Vice President of the Connecticut Valley Snowmobile Club. Thank you so much, Dan.
Thank you.
And we are fortunate once again to be talking to Gary Lamberton, who is the trail master of the Buckaroos of 302. Gary, how are you doing?
Good morning, Josh. I'm doing great.
Excellent. Now, so we do this now every time on the Outdoor Edge. We check in with you on what the trails are looking like over there in the Green Mountain State side of our listening area.
Wow. This is great timing. A couple weeks ago, I probably said that we're doing pretty well in the Groton State Forest and Buckaroos 302 territory, but we're still waiting for other people to open up. Well, that has happened. All our surrounding clubs are now open up. It just happened this week and last weekend. Bailey Hazen Club, Twinfield, the Thompson Ridge Runners, Snowbees, they're all open. So you can come and park at the Butterfield parking lot, Upper Valley Grill, have something to eat, get gas. Now you can head to all destinations right from Groton, Vermont. So we are wicked excited to have that happen.
And so according to your map too, because I remember last time you were talking to us, you had color-coded parts of the map. Green is open, yellow is caution, red is closed. Do you have any reds on the map now?
No, everything is open.
Wow.
Okay. I have everything's green. I have one trail that's yellow, and we just groomed it, so that will probably turn green soon. It's just a little shortcut trail. And they are like everything that's green is a 10. It is great. Jesse Lambert Farms Grooming. He is doing I just saw him yesterday. I tracked him down. He was out grooming. And I may have put 300 miles on my sled. He said he's put 1,000 miles in the groomer. Nothing on his sled. In the groomer, he's done 1,000 miles sitting in that groomer, running around the Buckaroos territory. Wow. That's crazy.
Man, that's the thing about the snow. It's fresh air. It's beautiful. You get to be out in the nature. You get to be out in the woods or in the fields. It is gorgeous, and this is perfect season right now for being outdoors.
Yeah, it is. We also have some other exciting news. We did have a small trail closure going to Cabot. It's corridor 232 between the junctions CA18 near Peacham Pond up through to Cabot at CA17. And it wasn't due to any problems or issues. It's a landowner change on a small portion of the trail. We weren't able to use that small little piece while this transaction is happening. The transaction is still going on. So I worked closely with Ross Page of the Bailey Hazen Club, and he was able to figure out and help with some landowner permissions, and we rerouted the trail on some old logging roads in some fields, and we just did that work yesterday. So this is hot off the press. We got it all cut out. We got it all signed, and we just got a little bit more to do with signage as far as junction signs, and we'll pull the trail closed sign off, and we'll have it open, and we hope that will be this weekend. So that's wonderful news for the people that are over in that area.
Okay, excellent. Now, also, Gary, do the Buckaroos of 302, do you have any events coming up in the future as well?
Oh, yes, the annual Dick Page Ride-In. That is coming up on Saturday, February 14th. So that is a huge tradition. I believe this is number 47 coming up, and that will be held at the Groton Highway Garage right near Upper Valley Grill on the Route 302 Scott Highway, and that will be starting at 11 a.m. on the 14th till we run out.
And you said it's on Valentine's Day. That's a great way to take your date, too, is to go to the Dick Page Ride-In.
Oh, absolutely. That'd be my kind of date.
See, exactly. You know, it's you be able to get there. You have that, treat your special loved one to something to eat at the Groton Town Garage. I can't think of anything more romantic than that, Gary.
Yeah. And do remember, it's the Groton Fire Department that does cook the chicken, so that's always the best.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. Well, Gary, thank you so much, and I look forward to our next conversation and seeing how the trails are looking over there in Vermont.
Me too. Can't wait to tell everybody.
It's a St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge on YKR Country.
So where's the big deal?
Holy schmoly, it's Matt LeKire from the Autosaver Group, St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. It's the Start Something New sales event, and if you've been waiting for the perfect time to get into a brand new truck, your wait is officially over. Right now, you can lease a brand new 2026 Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cab for just $479 per month for 39 months with zero money down. That's right, no money down, and you're driving one of the toughest, most capable, full-size trucks on the road. With legendary Ram power, premium comfort, and head-turning Bighorn style, this truck is built to handle Vermont and New Hampshire's toughest roads and look good doing it. But don't wait, these Ram 1500 Bighorns are moving fast during the Start Something New sales event. Come see us today on Memorial Drive in St. Johnsbury, Vermont, just past the railroad tracks, or check us out online at stjohnsburycdjr.com.
Stock number SJR 26078. 10,000 miles per year, 32,500 total miles. 30 cents per mile over. Tax, title, fees, and registration extra. Must have a Stellantis brand lease and household to qualify. First payment due at signing.
St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, where Vermont drives Ram tough.
And that is a wrap with the St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge. And huge thanks to Gary Moore, and thank you to Nick Fortin for sharing his expertise. So tune in and catch it live on demand tomorrow.